Welcome to the Money Maven Project podcast. If you're here to learn how to obtain freedom over your time and money through real estate investing, you're in the right place. Create the life you want by living with intention and becoming a maven in mindset, money, and real estate. Now, here's your host, Justin Monk.
Hey, welcome. This is Justin with the Money Maven Project podcast. I am super excited. We've got Matt Faircloth on the show today, and we are going to have an awesome episode jam-packed with some good knowledge. Thanks for being on, Matt.
Justin, it's an honor to be here. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Man, I remember reading your book the first time. Like, he would be a good guy to have on the podcast. So I appreciate you making the time, making this happen. This is a big thing. We're going to talk a lot about raising private capital and how to use that tool in getting started in real estate, or just expediting or growing exponentially in real estate by raising private capital. So, but Matt, take a second and just give us your background, where you started and kind of where you're at today.
Sure. So no problem. I was born in Baltimore, Maryland, and decided I wanted to spread my wings a little bit when I got into college, and I decided to venture into engineering, because people were like, "Hey, man, you're good at math and science. You should be an engineer." And being a dumb 17-year-old kid that wanted to just go have fun, really, I was like, "Oh, I'll go to school for engineering." So I went to Virginia Tech, and by the time I figured out what an engineer did, I was like, "Oh, I don't want to do that though," So I was lucky enough to find a sales job selling machinery that I was selling to engineers. So I knew how to talk engineer talk, and I knew how to, present things, like there were technical product, but I could still be in what, some folks would call a unique ability or core genius, or God-given talent, right? I was able to live in that and still, and flourish when using that degree, to a degree, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Use our degrees to a degree. So I did that for 7 years, and then I took a job transfer to Philadelphia, because I don't even talk about this very often on podcasts, but you seem to be on a different podcast. I'll put it out there. I'm adopted. And so I went back and I moved to Philly because I had found my birth mother through my adoption process, went back through the service that my parents got me from when I was 3 months old, went back to that agency, and they were able to get me reconnected to my birth mother, who happened to be in South Jersey. And so I took a job transfer with the company I was with to Philly so I could be closer to her and get to know her, and just expand that part of my life, right?
Yeah.
And also close to my adopted parents that I grew up with, because they were in Baltimore. I was living in North Carolina at the time, which was like 8 hours from Baltimore.
Yeah.
Having a great time, but just not close to things that meant something to me, and also just wanted to be near things that near new explorations, including my birth mother. So
Yeah.
Moved up there, took a job transfer with the same company into Philly, and met my wife, Liz, who we're about to celebrate 15 years worth of marriage.
Yeah. That's cool.
And she was finishing up at UPenn, because I married up and married a smart girl, so she was finishing up at UPenn and got me to read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And so she got me to read the book, and I was like blown away by it, and got me to play the board game Cash Flow. And she kind of got the Kool-Aid in my veins for real estate investing. And so once her and I had been dating for a little bit, we came up with this wacky idea that once we got married, we would do something we would do a concept that's just kind of fallen by the wayside in America, which is called living below your means. And so, right, we would live on less money than we needed, a little crazy. We would live on just her salary. And I would be able to quit my job with my industrial sales position, and I would start our company, the DeRosa Group. And so we did that in 2005, and built a business and bumped into a lot of walls and got our teeth kicked in. And my hair was all brown at the time. Now it's a lot of gray and all that. And so that was 15 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah,
So 2005 is when that started.
That was when I quit. I quit my job in '05. Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Wow. So this is cool. So you to date, I think I read in the back cover of the book, it was like some $30 million worth of deals. Where's
We're
that at
45
now?
now, but yeah.
45 now.
Yeah, right.
Let's clarify. We got to make sure we got the right number.
Well, I know. I don't. I'm not a. It's a lot of real estate investors like to run around talking about how theirs is bigger than mine is, and mine is bigger than yours is, or whatever it is. It's not. I don't celebrate too much on deals under management or unit count or anything like that. I mean, I'll tell people if they ask, but I'm not going to run around and pound my chest on that unless I feel like I need to establish ourselves. But that's something the industry seems to want to know those things, and so I talk about it. But it's really less about that.
Yeah, and the reason I wanted to clarify that is because 15 years, 45 million, right? And your first deal, we're not going to go into a lot of details, but your first deal was flip. What was your first deal?
Technically, my first deal was a house I lived in. Because when Liz got me to read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I had landed a big commission check selling a ton of equipment to Minute Maid orange juice.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were revamping this plant in New Jersey, regutting the whole thing, and they gutted this plant, and then like a year later they shut it down, which was crazy. I was like, why would you guys? It just corporate just doesn't make sense sometimes. Yeah. So but when I sold them all this equipment, I made for a 26-year-old a really big commission check. Mm-hmm. In that. So I didn't know what to do with it. So I just put it in my savings account. I was like, this is more than I should know, more than I should be dealing with right now. So I'm just going to put it in savings until an idea comes up. And she got me to read the book, and I did. And I was like, oh my goodness, I should invest this somehow. Yeah. And my lease was ending where I was living. And so I tried to buy the house I was in. Somebody outbid me on that. And so the realtor took me under his wing, really just took now I realized he just wanted another buyer. So took me under his wing and helped me find another house in that same neighborhood. And I bought a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, and my 2 buddies who were living with me in the house that we just got kicked out of because our lease ended, and some other person bought that house. We all needed a place to live. So those 2 moved in with me in the house that I lived in, and they both were paying me $500 a month in my new place, and my mortgage was $940, and so I was making $1,000 a month, making almost 6 figures living there for free.
Yeah,
So this little kid got all of a sudden I'm 26, and I'm the Kool-Aid is now fully in my veins now. Yeah, I saw the power.
Well, and this is the point. This is why I wanted to clarify the 45 million and talk about your first deal, because there are, even me, some days, right, I'm super impatient. I want to just be there. I want to be there at the $45 million mark or whatever the mark is, right? And I think so many newer investors, whether they're just trying to get started or they're early on, they've got 3 doors, they're making a couple $100 a door, $600 of cash flow a month. And they're like, when is this ever going to pay? When is this ever going to get me to the life that I want? And I think a lot of us, I'll put myself in that beginner stage, it's super hard to be patient. And so here you are, 15 years, 45 million. What do you tell to that person that's like just getting started and going through that mindset struggle?
I think that it has to do, and I read this concept in a book called The Way of the Superior Man. And it's not just for men. It could be the way of the superior woman too, right? But the way the superior man talks about acting into fear and getting used to fear being with us a little bit. And acknowledging that it's okay to take not baby steps, but call them a little bit bigger than baby steps, courageously forward. And you don't have to take like an enormous leap forward and go okay, I'm going to go from 0 to 100 units in the first year. I see so many unrealistic goals that will likely never get achieved, or if they do, the people are probably not well equipped to handle what it is that they think that they want for themselves. Mm-hmm. They also think that people also think, by the way, Justin, that an apartment building is an ATM machine that spits out $1 million checks. Also not true. An apartment building is a vehicle that will cause you to work your ass off for a very long time and maybe make a nice check. In that, but apartment buildings and larger real estate gets put up on a pedestal in some ways in our industry. In that, and I know people. I met a guy recently that's considering investing with us that's making $400,000 a year off of 30 units. Right now, he's got a lot of them are paid off, and a lot of them are, and they're in high rent districts and things like that. And I'm not saying that's the path to success either. What I'm saying is that, first of all, you got to put one foot in front of the other. And if you do not own any real estate at all and you're still renting and you want to make 20 grand a month in real estate income, understand that could be step 7, right? Step 1 is likely to get your own homestead straight, and maybe to dip your toe in the water, maybe mentor under somebody or figure some things out, and to courageously move forward into discomfort, and to be a little uncomfortable, but not so much to where you have no idea what you're doing. You got to walk into the fog a little bit, enough to where like it starts to make sense. Okay, I bought this one rental, bought a single family home, and after that, Liz and I bought a duplex, and after that, Liz and I bought an 8 unit, and after that, right. So had I bought the 8 unit first, I likely would have gotten my teeth kicked in. And by the way, that was in a 2-year period. And we bought a single family home that I lived in, then bought a duplex, then bought an 8 unit. So it happened quickly, right? People are just too darn impatient, Justin, that they don't realize that the success that they want is right in front of them. They just got to have the courage to take like slightly uncomfortable steps, but not steps so big that they likely are stepping into a hornet's nest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the tricky part, is just staying patient with the process. There is a process. I mean, there's a learning process. It doesn't matter what books you read or what podcasts you listen to. There's still real world experience that you have to go out and gain by buying your own deals and going through your own process. And day in and day out,
it's a marathon too. This business is a marathon.
Yeah.
People don't realize
exactly.
They think that they can like achieve millionairedom and like sip Mai Tais on the beach in 6 months. No.
No,
yeah.
That's exactly right. So I think that mindset around, real estate's some people are, hey, real estate's the fastest way to wealth, but then we get impatient with the process. And I do agree. It can be a
I don't think it's the fastest way to wealth. I don't think real estate is the fastest way to wealth. It's not. It's the most surefire and the most proven way to wealth. And most wealthy people that I know ever have some sort of sticks and bricks in their portfolio. The fastest way to wealth is certainly like, getting picked up in the NBA or
lottery, whatever,
the lottery or whatever it is. But people confuse that real estate is a surefire way to wealth, that it might take you 20 years to get to that point, but it's not a fast way to wealth. The fastest way to wealth is going to be getting freaking lucky, and if you want, you can either try and get lucky, and there's people that get lucky in real estate that have, gargantuan portfolio's over a very, very short period of time. Those people got lucky. Check back on them in 10 years, see where they're at. This is a marathon.
Yeah.
So.
I love this conversation because I think there's so many beginners out there that just get frustrated with how long it takes and the process and the patience that they have to have. And so I think if they shift their mindset to just take that next step, and if that next step is house hacking your first house, then that's it. Focus there, be patient with it. If the next step is your first small multifamily, just get to that point, and then the fog will clear for the next step. And I just think there's so many, as I talk to different newer investors, that's the thing. It's like, well, I just want to get there, and they get frustrated with the slower pace than they expect. And so be patient out there.
And the other frustration that they have, Justin, is that it's not moving as fast as they like for it to, or that I can list because I hear it all, like, when folks that I talk to and people that are in our communities and stuff like that, like, oh, I can't find deals, or no, there's, it's a bad time to buy real estate, or I can't get financing, or I'm not bankable. Shit, list your problems, man.
Mm-hmm.
And all that. But at the end of the day, if you find a way to move forward, and if as a newer investor, if you find a way to have some sort of momentum, and if you avoid the biggest problem that new investors, I think that what they really have is getting stuck by trying to, if you try and stretch too big, you're going to get stuck, but it's very easy. There's always room at the bottom, go find a duplex, single family home, triplex, whatever, but just, here's a really uncomfortable thing. This sounds so simple, but follow the math. If you approach this business to double your portfolio every time you do a deal, that's exponential growth, and it sounds real small in the beginning. I'll buy a single family home. Okay, now next time go buy 2, next time go buy 4, next go buy 8, then 16. You do 2-3 deals a year, you're in the stratosphere before you know it. But people think that they need to buy the 100-unit deal first.
Yeah.
That's going to become frustrating. They're also going to have a problem gaining momentum. And momentum is really what brings you into success in this business, is by moving, is by trying the deals, learning, documenting, journaling everything you get, journaling what you're learning as you grow, and most importantly, putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it doesn't matter what you're trying to accomplish, whether it's real estate success or anything worthwhile in your life. If you skip to the finish line, you're not going to become the person that the resistance in whatever endeavor you're out there for is going to require you to become to earn that. So if you just jump in a car and fly to the finish line of a 100-mile race, your body's not going to go through the process of strengthening and conditioning to get, to become what it needs to become to get there. So if we just fall into a 100-unit deal, you're probably not the real estate businessman or woman that you should be to actually manage that deal and to go get the next deal, because you didn't go through that process. I think I
appreciate you going there, man. I appreciate you going there. Thank you. You actually took it a cut deeper, and I'll follow you. And there's even a quote in my book, not to mention it, but in my book I say that to live a bigger life, you need to learn to be a bigger human being. Meaning like, and here's another way to say that: the life you're living now is 100% reflection of who you are, right? So if you want a bigger life, look yourself in the mirror first. Don't look life and say, oh, life's screwing me over, or that old business partner screwed me over, or my parents screwed me over, whatever it is. No, look yourself in the mirror and decide the changes you're going to make in yourself on who you need to be to live bigger, to create the life you want. I am 100% different person now than I was 15 years ago. As you said, and what's funny, Justin? That's probably why like a huge percentage of lottery winners lose it, because they are still the same person that they were before they won the lottery. They weren't prepared for multimillionairedom. They end up losing most of it because they weren't psychologically prepared to be who that lottery ticket made them. Yeah. Right. Just like the person that wants to attract a 100-unit apartment complex is likely not the person that it takes to manage that. When you are ready for the deal will show up. When the student is ready, the master shall appear. And when the investor is ready, the deal will appear. Yeah. In some ways, Yeah. So.
No, that's huge. And I don't think it's something that's talked about a lot in our industry. Just that ultimately, and now we're getting super deep, but I think it's valuable. Ultimately,
let's go.
Ultimately, the most valuable thing of owning, whatever it is, 100 million or 5,000 doors or 1,000 doors, whatever your target or whatever you're at, the most important thing of owning that isn't those assets and the money. It's who you become in the journey to getting there, right? The most important thing isn't finishing the 100-mile marathon or run. It's who you became in the conditioning for the months and months and months prior to that actual race. And so
if you train properly for anything, it's about the training. It's the race should simply be a culmination of all the training that you do. I've only done a few races. I've done like 1 or 2 triathlons and some foot races, but my wife's a lunatic. She's done half irons and a bunch of marathons and all that kind of stuff. And my wife, and even a good friend of mine, Jason Yarusi, who given him on the show, he would be a phenomenal guest here because he's like Mr. Fitness. But he would tell you that it's not about the race. It's not. It's about the training and the mindset you've got to go through to get to the race. You can even go home on race day. When you get there, if you've trained properly for a marathon or a half iron or the ultra marathons that lunatic Jason Yarusi does, by the time he gets to that race, man, he's already won. He doesn't even need to freaking run the race because he's already been through the training, the conditioning, and the diet, and the mindset, and the 3 a.m. wake up so he could do his training run and then go manage his kids afterwards. You know, like that's the freaking journey, man. Is the scars you get, and the battle scars, and the thicker skin you get on your way to where you're going.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, that's huge. That's where the ultimate value is, and sometimes we miss that when we get impatient with that. I love it. That's we went deep there, but I think there's some high value in that, in understanding what's really going on there, and I appreciate you helping us understand that. That's
it's
awesome.
all, it's in the journey. I'll give one further, Justin. It's also in the failures too. And I mean, nobody talks about that enough in this business. I mean, real estate investing in some of the circles that you and I both run around in tends to be the frickin' prom, and in like, who's the frickin' homecoming queen here, a homecoming king and queen. At the end of the day, yeah, it's all nice to flash and take selfies in front of the apartment building or the single family home that you just bought, or driving around in a Ferrari you rented, showing checks from deals that you just did. If you've seen that online, but there's the guy that's trying to get people to sign up for his course, and he's in a Ferrari, showing the checks and stuff like that. All well and good, but I'd rather hear I trust someone that's going to teach me, that's going to tell me about their scars versus showing me their tattoos. I want to hear all about the time you got your teeth kicked in, the time you got stolen from, and I'm willing to go there myself. And when I talk to people, and I've like gone, I've been brought to tears several times on stage and on podcasts, putting myself out there. Number one, because it's therapeutic, and number two, because it just really, I think that those are the kind of things that help people more in learning about the times that we screwed up versus the times that we succeeded. So really, the journey is about the learnings you get through the failures, versus the wins. Wins actually don't teach you very much.
Yeah, it's huge. And I don't know anybody that's achieved great success that hasn't been through a bunch of failures along the way.
If they're not willing to talk about it, it's because they're full of it. They either are faking it, or they are too conceited to really put it out there. Sorry to start throwing rocks. I'm not a hater. I'm just looking at folks, and I realize that nobody's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I lost money on my first deal, learned a lot, relearned a few things, and it's been one that it's a scar. It hurts because I'm like, I having a failure on your mindset can slow you down or damage your confidence, but you just have to take that. You just have to bounce from that failure to the next failure. And that's where you're going to ultimately succeed.
It was Winston Churchill that said, I love quotes. I don't know if you're a quote guy, but Winston Churchill said that success is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. Isn't that great? You just picture someone just going, let me fail again, let me fail again, and stuff like that. It's very English humor, but yeah, right.
Yeah, no, I think that's huge. And I totally could be misquoting this, but I
probably misquoted Churchill too.
No, I think you're right, because I actually read that one the other day. But I believe in the actual lunar landing, right? When the United States landed on the moon. Yeah. If you read the story, I remember there being like several failures along the way, even in the one that actually landed on the moon. They missed like their target landing spot, going way too fast, failures in equipment. Like there was
Neil Armstrong, that landing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And there were still, they were failures, not catastrophic, but there were still missed, they missed their target landing zone. There was a lot of things that still went wrong, but ultimately they succeeded and landed on the moon, which I think is a lesson in of itself. So I wish I had more details on that, but I remember reading about that. And I'm like, that's a good point. Like, not every journey is going to just be totally perfect and, fail safe.
None are, man. I mean, like, I'd love to hear more about. I'll have to look that up. I'd love to hear more about that, because I was a space nut as a kid. growing up, right? Like as most people in my generation were. So,
Yeah.
in that, but yeah, I'd like to hear more about that. And that makes sense because really it is about, pushing forward to your goals, even though there is adversity, even though you wanted to land here, but you land here. And what's great is, and I've done a little bit of theater in my youth and a bit of production. And this one director that when I was in theater years ago told me that, like, listen, the audience has no idea what you're going to say next. And so if you forget your line or if you screw up or if you trip or whatever it is, they don't know you weren't supposed to do that.
Yeah.
So keep it rolling, man. Make it part of the show, whatever. If you miss your mark, you miss your step, it's okay. Just throw another one in there because they don't know. People don't know what the next thing that's supposed to happen is. So why does it matter? You didn't land in this place, you landed over here. Keep it going, man.
Exactly. It's a success ultimately.
It's all success. Yeah.
I love that, man. I love where we've been on that conversation. Let's shift just a little bit now.
Sure.
Let's talk a little bit more about raising private capital. I mean, let's talk a little bit about what are the common misconceptions that keep a lot of the newer we'll call them deal finders. That's how you reference them in the book, right? Newer deal finders. What keeps them in a fear or a mindset that keeps them from going out there and trying to raise private capital?
What keeps people back? Okay, that there's a lot of misconceptions or fears that people have. Most successful capital raisers, including me, started with raising capital from immediate family. And there is a misconception that, I don't want to go to my parents, or my parents don't have money, or I don't want to, mix family or mix friends with business or mix family with business. And I get not everybody's parents have, resources. Mine did not either. My parents just didn't realize that their free and clear home could be used for real estate. They weren't just sitting around with millions of dollars that they decided to give to their good son, Matt. So there's no silver spoon in my mouth. My parents did what 1/3 of America does, paid off their house. 1/3 of homes in America are free and clear. People don't realize that could get put to work somewhere, right? So the biggest misconception capital raisers have is that immediate family, I don't want to talk to them. Flip the script, man. Those people need you, right? My parents would not be, my dad, God rest his soul, and my mother would not be in the position that they're in if it wasn't for me helping them. My mother got to retire when my father died because I helped her.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
Look
huge.
at it that way. Help your people, you got to flip the script that you can help people. They're not doing you a favor. The biggest problem that people have, Justin, is that you got to beg and plead people to invest with you or give them money or whatever. No, screw that, man. You are giving people an opportunity, to reach their financial goals through working with you. And you got to be not like cocky like a prick, but a little more confident in what it is you have to offer. And how it can help people achieve their financial goals. And that's probably the biggest misconception. And the second misconception, Justin, is that, and I hear this all the time. When I used to, back when the world was normal and I used to speak in public and stuff like that, I'd go speak at gigs and people would be like, I don't know anyone with money. Well, BS, man. Yes, you do. Everybody knows people with money. And if I show you where to look, and in my book, Raising Private Capital, I do show you where to look for money. If you realize that the three places that anyone can keep money, most people have access to these things. They don't realize it. Two of the three places I talk about in the book where private money is hiding, most people that have it don't know they have it. One of which is free and clear real estate, because they think that they've achieved the marathon by paying off their home. But really, you just unlock yourself a phenomenal piggy bank that can bring you to the next level. That's number one. And the second one is a retirement account. IRA. People don't realize that they can put it somewhere. I can invest that somewhere beside from Wall Street. So those are the biggest misconceptions. And again, I don't want to talk to immediate family, and I don't know people with money. Which when you know where to look, you realize you do. And it started. I know I'm like talking you up. The
No, keep
biggest
going.
thing that what boils down to is going back to looking yourself in the mirror. Because if you're saying stuff like that, I don't know people with money, or I don't want to talk to my family. What you're really saying is I don't believe in myself.
Yeah.
That's what you're really saying. And you got, if
Yeah.
you're willing to own that and look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, I'm not sure if I'm good enough to convince my family to invest with me, or to convince my friends to invest with me, or to start looking and hustling, then at least you can start from there.
Yeah.
You don't believe in yourself, great. Listen to more of Justin's podcast that's all about mindset. Go to Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Go read some great books and find that courage that's within all of us.
Yeah.
But if you acknowledge that it's not there, then that looking yourself in the mirror moment can take you to the next level. I had to have that moment myself years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's perfect. And it's funny because I've just gone through in the last year, I've went through those exact obstacles, right? I thought, okay, I don't want to go to my family. I know that's the easiest place. Especially, you know, they, as far as being accredited, non-accredited, things like that, it's the easiest place. And
people should not be worried about that. The accredited, non-accredited thing should not even be a conversation in the beginning. But keep going.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but then everybody's like, well, I don't want to beg. They feel like they're begging or asking for a loan, asking for money. But just like you said, you need to look at this like you are the expert and you have an opportunity that can help other people get better returns on their money, especially if it's money that's just tied up in their home. It's tied up in a retirement account that you can get them better returns. If you position yourself as you have an opportunity that you're wanting to share with others, they can jump in if they want, or they can stay out if they want. It's totally fine. But
if you have that much confidence in your deals, if you believe in yourself and believe in your deals, people will too.
Exactly. And I love that. I make sure I heard this right. Your mother retired, or basically was able to retire after your father died because of the investments and things that she was doing with you. Is that what I heard?
Not just that, but so it's partly because I educated her, and then I showed her about cash flow, and I showed her about passive income, and I showed her about the power of just investing in things that produce a residual check, right?
Yeah.
There's partly that, but also she's in a bunch of stuff that I'm involved in. So my mother is not only in my stuff and in that, and I don't think she should be, also partly because the awesome rules that the IRS has. My mother cannot take her IRA or my dad's IRA and invest it with me because I'm their son, right? Yeah. You can't invest an IRA directly down. Or directly up your family tree. So because of that, she can. So she's got a good amount of cash with me, but also because I've educated her on the way these things work, and also taken her under my wing and introduced her to other people that offer cash flowing opportunities, including me. Yeah. In that, and she is in deals in that. But so yeah, it's not only me, but yeah, it's because of the path I've taken her down over the years.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, that's a great example. You created this opportunity, you became educated, you became an expert in the field. I now have this opportunity. I can offer it to other people, family or not. You can offer it to other people, and they can take advantage of the opportunity to make money on their money or their assets. And that's
real estate
huge.
investing. Real estate investing is the best way to really change someone's life. And if you look below the DeRosa Green, it says transforming lives through real estate. And I look back at what my company's been able to do for people on returns on their money, and it's very gratifying. I had a guy who moved here, moved to America from Argentina, started working, just decided there was money in New York, and so moved to New York, right? Like, just honestly, kid from Argentina comes to America, 20 years old, right? Yeah. Comes to America. And starts and goes to New York City. Doesn't know what to do, so he starts working at a clerk around Wall Street because he knew there would be money around. He would get around money there. So starts working at a clerk at a convenience store. People keep coming in the convenience store wearing suits and stuff like that. He starts talking to them, and they all work around on Wall Street. So that he asks, "How did you get that job?" They, "Oh, I got my Series 7 license." So he goes online and gets himself a Series 7. Works his way into one of those firms, and he's the one guy on the floor that speaks Spanish. Okay, so anyone that calls up the firm that speaks little Spanish, mostly Spanish, but a little bit of English, they get him, and so he works his way up very quickly and becomes one of their bigger reps. He calls me really seeing what he sees what he's done. Found me online, found me through BP, and I'm local-ish down in New York City. He starts taking the money, and this guy's still renting with roommates, making six figures on Wall Street, right? So he's taking all the money he's making and investing it in Wall Street stuff, but also investing in real estate, right? I sold him several turnkey deals that through the turnkey deals he made, he probably made around $3,000 a month in turnkeys and another couple of grand a month for his Wall Street investments. This guy, 32 years old, was able to move back home to Argentina and is now not working at 32 years old, right?
That's crazy.
And I was, no, listen, I wish I could pound my chest and say, I did that. No, through his wherewithal and his, like, think about that story, man, his gumption and his desire to get to America and live the American dream and hustle and grind and get around money and find his way to work his way in the middle of it, and also get kind of lucky too. He worked his way there. I was only a vehicle that I was able to provide to him. I can't take credit for that. All I can do is take credit that I provided him the right assets that he wanted to get himself into at the right price point. That were a win-win between me and him. But what I was a conduit for him to achieve financial freedom, and that's what we all can be, is conduits for people to achieve financial freedom. So this guy, 32 years old, living back in Argentina. And by the way, $5,000 a month in Argentina is a king's salary, in Argentina. So he might as well put another zero on that, compare it to American to an American income. Isn't that crazy, Justin?
Yeah, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
I love that story. And again, that's how we shift. If you can understand that you're creating opportunity for people to change their lives, put their money where there's a great return. That's what we're doing. And so you're not begging for money. You're not asking for a loan.
No.
You're creating opportunity. You're becoming an expert. You're becoming educated. You're hustling to find deals and provide. Otherwise they would not be able to do this on their own, right? I mean, it takes a lot to go find these deals, put them together, syndicate them, or find a house to flip, whatever level you're at there. But that's how we shift the mindset that slows up a lot of people when they start to talk about raising private capital. So that's a great example. So, and then, I mean, I did the same thing, right? Once I finally, and you go through in the book, you go through it really nicely, right through kind of like looking at your circles, looking at different levels, close family, and then it kind of branches out from there. Mm-hmm. And so I went through that list, and as I started making the list, I'm like, oh yeah, I actually know a lot of people that have money or have good jobs, probably have great retirements, and you break it out into really good categories. So I was able to think through it really in a good process. And I'm like, all of a sudden I've got this huge list. I'm like, hey, these people, I could provide a great opportunity for these people. And so it was a great exercise, but it was just funny that once you just know a little bit more and the light bulb comes on about, okay, that makes sense. He had a really high paying job for 45 years. He's retired. He probably got great retirement, probably has, 1 in 3 of the people on your list probably have a paid for home. There's capital there. So your mind, if you just learn a little bit more, it's not too hard to overcome these two big obstacles and getting past them to go start raising some capital.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you learn what the signs to look for, I mean, most Americans transfer jobs every 7 years. And what a transferred job means is likely there's a retirement account that got left at the prior employer, and that retirement account that was a 401k can now be an IRA. And so if you just look at your list and say, okay, who used to work somewhere and now works somewhere else? Well, most people on your list did, people job hop, right? As long as they had some sort of a retirement account at company A, then that can get transferred. And most companies that, thanks to the Obama administration, it's required that most companies that are over like 30 employees offer benefits like, healthcare and other benefits. If they're going to offer healthcare, they're also going to offer, retirement accounts and things like that. So because of those mandates from the Jobs Act, I think it was the Jobs Act, they, a lot of these companies have to offer benefits like that. So I'm not trying to get political. I'm just saying these are the rules, And so, look online and see if the company that your Uncle Charlie used to work for had a retirement account, because he likely participated in it, doesn't realize that he could do something else with it.
Yeah.
And by the way, Justin, what percent of retirement accounts are invested in anything else outside of Wall Street. And I'm not, when I say what percent of retirement accounts, I don't mean what percent of 401ks. I mean what percent of IRAs that are qualified to be invested in real estate or something else. 3% of those retirement accounts are invested in something else outside of Wall Street. 97% of them are in Wall Street. And there's something like 10 trillion. There's $10 trillion out there up for grabs.
Yeah. That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
And people are putting it there because that's what their financial advisor understands and knows. And so says, hey, let's put it in here. But they don't know that there's a way to get better returns on what I believe is the best investment out there, which is real estate. And people just don't know that. So our job as investors is to, again, create the opportunity, create the education and the know-how, say, hey, I've got this deal. This is the vehicles you can use to invest with me. And these are the returns that we can get. And
I've had so many conversations, Justin, with people that have called me up, which we're lucky. I'm really blessed that I get a lot of calls through our website and for people that just approach us through DeRosaGroup.com that want to hear more about what we have to offer. And so I've had calls with folks and they'd be like, well, I really want to diversify my wealth. I really want, I get it. I want to get to the next level. I see that I can't just get there just through Wall Street. But I've only got like 30 grand that I can put to work right now, I'm like, okay, well, that's great. That's fine. 30 grand's a start, but tell me what else you have. Well, I've got my house and, I said, well, do you have a retirement account? Well, yeah, I got my 401k at my current job. No, I'm talking about the IRA you had from a job you used to work. Well, I got that. But I can't really mess with that. I can't really, they're immediately, they go, I can't cash that out. They think that they think I'm referring to them taking the penalty of withdrawing it. Like, no, I can't do that. I'm like, okay, no, I mean, how much is in that account? Oh, there's like, I don't know, 300,000-400,000 in there,
Yeah.
Like they don't, because of the crazy run that Wall Street's had the last 9 years, these people probably don't realize what buying potential they have sitting in that retirement account, you know? And I've had to educate them and say, hey, wait a minute. No, you can take that and put it to work in real estate, whether it's with me or somebody else. You can move it to a custodian. I've had people's other IRA providers or their CPAs or whatever it is tell them, oh, you can't do that, or it's illegal, or you can't, you have to pay lots of penalties and fees and stuff like that. And I've had to be the educator against those things because there's an enormous industry that does not benefit from folks moving that money over to us. But it's my mission to make that 3% 10%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the conversation with a financial advisor about my dad's IRA, and it was the same thing. No, you don't want to do that. Here's this, here's that. I'm like, no, that's not what I understand. So yeah, they're obviously motivated to keep that money in their world.
But put it in a REIT. Yeah, you can invest in a REIT, or this mutual fund that I can sell you involves some real estate holdings. Get out there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can't make a commission, you don't want me to do it. I get it.
I don't make a commission if you take the money away from me.
Right. It's like, well, wait, what about me? How do I earn?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
That's huge. You talk a little bit about it in the book too, of being educated and kind of one of the prerequisites is just being educated about all these different things that we're talking about. And at the end of the show here, we'll have Matt give us some different direction on where we can go to learn more about this stuff. But let's jump into, okay, so really quickly, give us an example of a deal that you would be offering. So because I envision an investor, a newer investor thinking right now, okay, I'm currently buying and flipping houses, or I'm burying some houses or whatever, and I'm just doing it with my own capital. Why do I want to get into the complications of going out there and trying to raise money? So two things. Why does an investor want to go raise capital and rather than just do it on their own? And two, give us an example of the deal or of a deal and the power that it has for both the investor and the money providers, I guess, the deal finder and the cash providers.
Okay. So no problem. For the why, right? Aside from the obvious reasons, like, oh, well, money's awesome. And if you want to make more money and do more deals or whatever, it'd be great that unless you're a lottery winner yourself or have a silver spoon in your mouth yourself or a big trust fund or something like that, you may run out of your own money at some point in that. But also, aside from the just more money so you can grow kind of argument, it also is beneficial if you can build a few private money relationships that kind of have money that's sitting there waiting for you to produce something. Because a typical bank takes anywhere between 45 to 60 days to close a deal. Well, what if you had a private money lender that under the right circumstances and under the right vetting, they could close you in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
We've done deals. I did a deal one time where we found it on a Tuesday and title had already been clean and title had already been run on the property. We found it on a Tuesday. We closed inside of a week, and all that because I had private money lined up. This private money lender was ready to write a check. So, well, why wouldn't I do that? And that's what it gives you velocity and it also gives you capacity. So that's why you want private money. Okay. Typical deal. And this is like when you first get started, and I think I say this from raising private capital, but if I don't, I'll say it now, in that everybody should start with a private loan, not with private equity, not with equity relationships, because equity can get very complicated. Private loans are super simple. Here's a mortgage, here's a note. You get collateral on the property, and I make my monthly payments to you, or I don't make monthly payments and I pay you a lump sum when the property's done. Whatever it is, that's the payment arrangements that we're going to agree to, and everybody's going to move on down the road, right? And a typical deal could be a BRRRR deal where you buy it, renovate, rent out, refinance, repeat. Could be a fix and flip, whatever it is. The private loan is likely going to come in and help you acquire something that's undervalued, that's dilapidated and undervalued, and you're going to add value by fixing the dilapidation and plucking the hair off of that, off of that wad of gum, and getting it clean again and getting it polished up and investing this and making the property worth this, because it's the beauty of real estate is what you invest is not the increase in value. The increase in value has to do with the market's perception of the property. And if you play your cards right, what you invest is less than that. And that delta is your profit. You invest 20, it's worth 50 now. That's the beauty of real estate. That's what makes this thing go around, is what you put in is typically multiplied several times to create in the value that gets created through it. And so I recommend private loans for things like that. And you would just do a conversation with your Aunt Sally, your Uncle Charlie, and say, hey, you just told me, Uncle Charlie, that you have 100,000 sitting in your IRA. Well, what if I could show you how to make 8% on that money, on an annual basis with collateral, with security, in that? And it was, Matt, I'm invested in the stock market. That's great, Uncle Charlie. I'm glad to hear that. Well, what's the stock market going to do tomorrow? I don't know. I don't know, man. Depends on the headlines. It depends on the headlines, doesn't it? It depends on who wins this election.
Depends on what the media wants it to do, right?
Depends on what the media decides. The media decides the stock market should go down 1,000 points. So let's publish an article about how Wall Street's overinflated. Here you go. Or whatever it is. And that. So, but I'll tell you what is going to happen is I'll make my monthly payment, and this property I'm renovating is going to turn around. And if my tenants stop paying their rent, I have repercussions and things that I can do. And then I've also got reserves that I can bridge it until they do pay the rent, right? Whereas it's completely out of your control.
Thanks for listening to the Money Maven Project podcast. A true maven shares knowledge with others, so be sure to share this podcast and leave a review. Thanks so much, and until next time, live life with intention.
That's a little hard money actually, but 10, 12, even up to 14, 15% on short term on money. It doesn't matter how much rate you pay. It matters how much money you make on the other side of your private lender.
You're right, exactly. People say, "Oh, I'm not going to pay 10 or 12%." I'm like, hey, if the deal crunches the numbers, paying 12%, you can pay 12%. Like don't get so focused on what that fee can be on that money. But if the deal can provide that or support that, then it's a deal regardless. Yeah.
Certainly is. Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh man. This has been a good conversation. I think you actually share a bunch more, and I know I sound like I'm plugging the book a lot, but it's got some really good, I would love to spend more time on it.
Sure.
you actually go through a lot of other scenarios, case studies right in the book of different, how to use private money on a flip or on a buy and hold, and then
Yeah.
even up to the bigger deals, syndicating deals of, larger multifamily. So I want the listeners to know that there's a lot we've only scratched the surface here, of what's out there as far as raising private capital. And I would say that regardless of where you're at in your real estate journey, if you're not raising or finding a way to use other people's money, you're going to run out of capital at some point. Like, unless you're just completely loaded, but then you should be doing something else other than real estate. I don't know. But
Yeah.
and that's what happened to me, right? I was self-funding everything, home equity line of credit and different things. And then I came to the point where I was like, well, I got to sit on these burrs for 6 months so they season before I can get my capital out. I'm basically stuck. And I should have been earlier on going through the process of building an investor base of people that would be willing to invest with me. And I would have avoided that delay in my progress of growing my portfolio. So I recommend to everybody, start this process before you need the money, because you're going to eventually want or need the opportunity or have the opportunities to utilize other people's money.
Yeah, yeah. It's a way to scale up your growth and to grow a little bit smarter. And it's not about putting your investors at risk, but it is a way for you to diversify the risk that you take. Because if it's all your money and all your capital and all your everything, then you're the only one that's taking the risk, and your investors can take a risk and be compensated for such. They're taking a risk on you, and you're paying them 8, 9, 10%, which is a lot more than a bank's going to charge, which is their compensation in exchange for taking a risk on you. So at least you diversify it and make them a return on their money while you're able to scale and grow as well.
Perfect. Awesome. Hey, Matt, where can people learn more about you and about what you provide as far as opportunities to invest and to learn?
Sure. Everything that they can do one of two things. They can go to derosagroup.com. That's DEROSAGROUP.com, derosagroup.com. And there's everything there. You can buy the book there. You can also buy the book on Amazon or on Bigger Pockets, but my website has an easy, handy click through that takes you to Bigger Pockets to buy the book. You can also learn about our YouTube page, my wife's Real Estate Invest Her show, which she should totally be a guest here, because she can talk to you about mindset for women and the journey of the woman investor, which is very different than the journey of the male investor, by the way.
Yeah.
She talks about that on the show. They have a book coming out themselves through Invest Her, and you can also learn about our insiders community, which is a private Facebook group. It's paid, but it's a small penance for what you get. Which is a private Facebook group, and that's called DeRosa Insiders. You can access that by going to derosagroup.com/insiders. Or if you want a bunch of free stuff, just pick up your handy dandy cell phone and text the word DeRosa, DEROSA, to the number 66866, and you'll get a ton of free articles and videos and my PowerPoints from Bigger Pockets when I spoke at their conference last year. Those PowerPoints are in there, all kinds of cool stuff. And then you'll also get a invite link to join Insiders. We're not going to spam you. Just put your information in, and we'll send you the goodies, and then you can join Insiders if you choose to. So
perfect. That's a load. That's a good repertoire of opportunities for us to learn from you. Matt, I appreciate you being on the show. I think again, this is a huge part of growing your portfolio if you're an investor, understanding the use of private money, other people's money, and being able to have that skill to have those conversations. I think that's huge. It's just going to help you grow and accomplish the goals that you're chasing after. So I was super happy to have Matt on here. Definitely an expert in the field, basically wrote the book, and he did write a book. But again, we've only scratched the surface. So dive in, get some more information from Matt and anywhere else that you can find it, and learn this skill and this tactic. Matt, any final words of advice before we let you go?
I've said this on Bigger Pockets podcast, and when people have asked me what one of the keys that I think to success are, it's simply not quitting. This business has given me a million opportunities to quit and a million good reasons to quit, But the only reason why I attribute a lot of my success that I've had in this business, or success that I see other people have, is when times have gotten tough, they doubled down, they didn't quit. And so this business can be very rough. It can punch back very hard. It is not a easy opponent to deal with sometimes, but the business can be extremely rewarding to those that get up again and again and again every time. If they get kicked, if they lose money on a deal, then shake it off and try again. Those are the ones that are going to be successful. So that I would lead with that, and I've dealt with that myself. And those that I know that are successful are ones that have gotten up more than the next guy, the person next to them did.
That's perfect, Matt. Spot on. Perfect note to part on. Thanks for being here, Matt. Thanks for listening, everyone. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Money Maven Project podcast. A true maven shares knowledge with others. So be sure to share this podcast and leave a review. Thanks so much. And until next time, live life with intention.